And it really just sort of fell in my lap that to do a book on the Navajo. And I found a publisher, and anyways, this project came about, and I spent 200 days a year, so 400 days in a Volkswagen van, tromping around, taking portraits, and it was really the hardest project I've ever worked on in my life. I mean, in terms of the amount of energy, the trying to win over a group of people. The Navajo are very closed people, but it was what I discovered about the Navajo is that they really are an open people, and within themselves they play jokes on each other. They have a great sense of humor, and it took me about a year to see that. But anyways, it was a wonderful project. It did take a lot out of me, and being gone so much from my family also was tough. But that's how it all started. Did this thing, and it became a national interest coffee table book, and some great things came out of that project. I grew up with Arizona Highways magazine, and when I did the book, I had an exhibit at the American History Museum in Smithsonian in DC, and it was 18 months with 60 prints hanging. It was just wonderful. But I always tell people that having my stuff run Arizona Highways was probably the biggest feather in my cap, because I grew up with Arizona Highways magazine. That was like the benchmark of, I saw the magazine and wanted to be in it as a young kid. And so it's always a pleasure to do anything with Arizona Highways. Well, the hardest thing, and sort of coming in from as an outsider onto the reservation, a lot of people that were, Anglo, outsiders told me that really this is almost an impossible task to do. And I was sort of naive, and to get the Navajo tribe to give me a sanction of a permit that said you're welcome on our land to take pictures, it took me 3 months, and it was just a real challenge to get anything done. But once I got my permit, then I had to win over the people. And I, again, being very naive, I thought, I'd be shooting pictures like the first week out, and I'd go up and ask people, and they'd say no and no, and there would be sometimes a whole week I'd be out there driving around from place to place and not have photographed one portrait. And so that's, as a photographer, it's brutal, because you want to be doing it every day. And so I had to be really patient. The couple images that have sort of stuck with me over the years of the Navajo is obviously the one of Rose. That was 10 years after the book. It was with a 4x5. I strobed outdoors, and I got this shot that I had envisioned. But the one image that I think that was a sort of surprise in my approach, as I was strobing everything, and you get these great delicate portraits of people looking into the lens. And that's what my goal was. But the one of the medicine man that's silhouetted, and then he's on the bed and the window's behind there, I started out and I strobed him, and it was kind of like okay. And then I just thought, before I tear down, I'm gonna pull my sync cord off my camera and shoot a couple frames with no strobe. And it was silhouetted, and that's one of my favorite shots out of the whole book. And it's funny because my whole vision was strobe, 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 and then here I do something opposite, and I get a shot that really, I think, is a strong image. So what that tells me is that sometimes it's those, you have this perspective like this, and then it's like you turn around and there's the shot behind you. And I believe that each one of us are unique in the way we approach the world. We have different taste in music, clothes, food we eat, everything we do. We are individuals, and we have a certain way of looking at the world and approaching the world. And so as an artist, the fact that I'm colorblind takes me down a path that is unique. I see the world different than the person next to me. The fact that I'm colorblind actually is a benefit to separate me from other people. So it's really a plus. So I tell this when I lecture, that you sometimes, if you look at it correctly, your weakness can actually be your greatest asset. It's a lot of fun to be able to share this love that I have for a craft with others. And I think that in the process of doing that, I've grown leaps and bounds. I think if you lock yourself in a room and say, hey, I'm got my thing, I'm not going to share it with anyone else, you don't grow as much as when you do share. I think it's a fun thing to give back.
Mhm.